Today, our story is about a man whose name in Soviet history is surrounded by secrecy, fear, and contradictions. A figure whose authority extended over the army, state security, industry, and even the atomic project. A man who, after the death of Joseph Stalin, became one of the most influential politicians in the country and was executed only a few months later. We will not give personal judgments. We will not search for justification nor deliver verdicts. This material is a biographical presentation based strictly on verified historical facts. Who he truly was, how he advanced from a provincial technical architect to the head of the NKVD, what decisions he made during the war, how he contributed to the creation of the atomic bomb, why he was removed by his own associates, and how his story ended. This is the first part of a series dedicated to Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria. Next, we will review the judicial proceedings, analyze various accounts of the final events, and examine the most controversial episodes linked to his name. Let us begin. Childhood and youth. Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria was born on the 17th of March, 1899, in the village of Merkuli, Kutaisi Governorate. He came from a poor peasant family. His mother was Marta Jakeli, born in 1868, died in 1955. She was of Mingrelian origin, according to the testimony of his son, Sergo Beria, and local residents. She was distantly related to the Mingrelian noble family of Dadiani. His father was Pavel Hukayevich Beria, born in 1872, died in 1922. He moved to the village of Merkuli from Mingrelia. Marta and Pavel had 3 children. One of the sons died at the age of 2. Their daughter became deaf and mute after an illness. In 1915, Lavrentiy Beria graduated from the Sukhumi Higher Elementary School. After graduation, he moved to the city of Baku and enrolled in the Baku Secondary Mechanical and Technical Construction School. Upon completing his studies, he received a qualification as a technical architect. Starting from the age of 17, he supported his mother and deaf-mute sister, who had moved to live with him. From 1916, he worked as an intern at the main office of the Nobel Brothers Oil Company. At the same time, he continued his education at the school. In 1919, he completed his studies and obtained a qualification as a construction technical architect. Beginning in 1916, he participated in an illegal Marxist circle at the Mechanical and Construction School. Within this circle, he served as treasurer. In March 1917, he joined the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, Bolsheviks. In Azerbaijani counterintelligence. In the autumn of 1919, on assignment from Anastas Ivanovich Mikoyan, who headed the Bolshevik underground in Baku, Lavrentiy Beria became an agent of the Organization for the Struggle Against Counter-Revolution under the Committee of State Defense of the Azerbaijani Democratic Republic. According to Alexander Vladimirovich Antonov Ovsenko, Beria was accepted into the intelligence service of the Musavat Party upon the recommendation of his former classmate Mirza Bala. It was he who introduced Beria to Mir Jafar Bagirov. According to Beria's own testimony, the acquaintance with Mir Jafar Bagirov took place in 1921. According to his autobiography, in the autumn of 1919, Beria entered counterintelligence service through the Hummet Party. He ceased working in this structure approximately in March 1920. Returned to Georgia. In April 1920, after the establishment of Soviet power in Azerbaijan, Lavrentiy Beria was sent on covert assignment to the Georgian Democratic Republic. He acted as a representative of the Caucasian Regional Committee of the Russian Communist Party, Bolsheviks, and of the Registration Department of the Caucasian Front under the Revolutionary Military Council of the 11th Army. Almost immediately, he was arrested in Tiflis. He was released on the condition that he leave the territory of Georgia within 3 days. Later, he took part in the preparation of an armed uprising against the Georgian Menshevik government. He was exposed by local counterintelligence. He was arrested and imprisoned in the city of Kutaisi. Subsequently, he was expelled to Azerbaijan. There exists testimony by Olga Grigorievna Shatunovskaya describing the episode of Beria's arrest in the city of Baku. Mir Jafar Bagirov is mentioned in this context. Lavrentiy Beria did not remain in Azerbaijan for long. He was imprisoned there as a provocateur. Mir Jafar Bagirov facilitated his release. Sergo Kirov, who at that time was serving in Tbilisi as plenipotentiary representative, sent a telegram to the headquarters of the 11th Army and to the Revolutionary Military Council. The telegram contained instructions to arrest Lavrentiy Beria as a provocateur. Service in the Azerbaijani Extraordinary Commission. Upon returning to Baku in August 1920, Lavrentiy Beria assumed the position of administrative manager of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of Azerbaijan. In October of the same year, he became executive secretary of the Extraordinary Commission for the Expropriation of the Bourgeoisie and the Improvement of Workers' Living Conditions. He remained in this position until February 1921. On the 24th of April, 1921, at a meeting of the Politburo and the Organizational Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of Azerbaijan, he was appointed deputy head of the Secret Operational Department of the Azerbaijani Extraordinary Commission for Combating Counter-Revolution, Speculation, Banditry, and Official Abuses. At that time, the department was headed by Hussein Akundov. By resolution of the Politburo of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of Azerbaijan, dated the 16th of July, 1921, Lavrentiy Beria was appointed deputy chairman of the Azerbaijani Extraordinary Commission. Some sources indicate May 1921. In 1921, Beria was subject to criticism from the party and security leadership of Azerbaijan. The criticism concerned the abuse of authority and fabrication of criminal cases. He avoided serious punishment. Anastas Ivanovich Mikoyan interceded on his behalf. During this period, he participated in the liquidation of the Muslim organization Ittihad and in the suppression of the Transcaucasian right-wing socialist revolutionaries. In the summer of 1922, Lavrentiy Beria was appointed head of the Secret Operational Department of the Azerbaijani Extraordinary Commission. Work in the state security organs of Georgia. In November 1922, Lavrentiy Beria was transferred to the city of Tiflis. There, he was appointed head of the Secret Operational Division and deputy chairman of the Extraordinary Commission under the Council of People's Commissars of the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic. Later, this structure was reorganized into the State Political Directorate of Georgia. Simultaneously, he served as head of the Special Department of the Transcaucasian Army. In July 1923, Lavrentiy Beria was awarded the Order of the Red Banner of the Georgian Republic by the Central Executive Committee of Georgia. In 1924, he took part in the suppression of the Menshevik uprising. For his participation in this operation, he was awarded the Order of the Red Banner of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. From March 1926, he served as deputy chairman of the State Political Directorate of the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic. He also headed the Secret Operational Division. On the 2nd of December 1926, Lavrentiy Beria was appointed chairman of the State Political Directorate under the Council of People's Commissars of the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic. He remained in this position until the 3rd of December 1931. Simultaneously, he served as Deputy Plenipotentiary of the Joint State Political Directorate under the Council of People's Commissars of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in the Transcaucasian Socialist Federative Soviet Republic, and as Deputy Chairman of the State Political Directorate under the Council of People's Commissars of that same republic. He held these positions until the 17th of April, 1931. From December 1926 to the 17th of April 1931, Lavrentiy Beria also served as head of the Secret Operational Directorate of the Plenipotentiary Representation of the Joint State Political Directorate under the Council of People's Commissars of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in the Transcaucasian Socialist Federative Soviet Republic, and of the State Political Directorate under the Council of People's Commissars of that republic. From April 1927 to December 1930, he held the position of People's Commissar of Internal Affairs of the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic. Lavrentiy Beria unsuccessfully attempted to secure a personal meeting with Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin, who was on vacation in Abkhazia. On the 27th of September 1931, he appealed to Nestor Lakoba, who facilitated the organization of a meeting with the head of state. It is likely that this meeting took place either in late September or early October 1931. On the 6th of June 1930, by resolution of the plenum of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic, Lavrentiy Beria was appointed a member of the Presidium, which was later reorganized into the Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of Georgia. On the 17th of April 1931, he assumed the positions of Chairman of the State Political Directorate under the Council of People's Commissars of the Transcaucasian Socialist Federative Soviet Republic, Plenipotentiary of the Joint State Political Directorate under the Council of People's Commissars of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in the same federation, and head of the Special Department of the Joint State Political Directorate of the Red Banner Caucasian Army. He remained in these roles until the 3rd of December 1931. From the 18th of August to the 3rd of December 1931, he was a member of the board of the Joint State Political Directorate of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. On party work in Transcaucasia. On the 31st of October 1931, the Politburo of the Central Committee of the All-Union Communist Party, Bolsheviks, recommended Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria for the position of Second Secretary of the Transcaucasian Regional Committee. He held this position until the 17th of October, 1932. On the 14th of November, 1931, Lavrentiy Beria became First Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of Georgia. He remained in this role until the 31st of August, 1938. On the 17th of October 1932, Beria was appointed First Secretary of the Transcaucasian Regional Committee. He simultaneously retained the post of First Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of Georgia. He was also elected a member of the Central Committees of the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of Armenia, and the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of Azerbaijan. In early March 1935, Lavrentiy Beria was elected a member of the Central Executive Committee of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics and a member of its Presidium. On the 17th of March 1935, he was awarded his first Order of Lenin. In May 1937, Lavrentiy Beria additionally headed the Tbilisi City Committee of the Communist Party, Bolsheviks, of Georgia. He held this position until the 31st of August, 1938. In September 1937, together with Georgy Maximilianovich Malenkov and Anastas Ivanovich Mikoyan, who had arrived from Moscow, Lavrentiy Beria conducted a purge of the party organization of Armenia. According to Grigory Mirzoyan, in 1936, during an interrogation held in his office. Lavrentiy Beria personally shot Agassi Gavandovich Khanjian, the first secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Armenia. From the 17th of January 1938, starting with the first session of the Supreme Soviet of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics of the First Convocation, Lavrentiy Beria served as a member of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR. In the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. On the 22nd of August 1938, Lavrentiy Beria was appointed First Deputy People's Commissar of Internal Affairs of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics under Nikolai Ivanovich Yezhov. At the same time, the position of First Deputy Commissar had been held since the 15th of April 1937 by Mikhail Petrovich Frenovsky, who headed the First Department of the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs. On the 8th of September 1938, Mikhail Frenovsky was appointed People's Commissar of the Navy of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics and left his positions as First Deputy Commissar and Department Head of the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs. On the same day, the 8th of September, the position of Head of the Department of the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs was assumed by Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria. From the 29th of September 1938, he headed the re-established Main Directorate of State Security within the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs. On the 17th of December 1938, he was replaced in this post by Vsevolod Nikolaevich Merkulov. On the 11th of September 1938, Lavrentiy Beria was granted the rank of State Security Commissar of the first rank. According to Alexander Sergeyevich Barsenkov and Alexei Ivanovich Vdovin, upon Beria's arrival to lead the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs, the scale of repression sharply decreased. The period of the Great Terror came to an end. According to data provided by Viktor Nikolaevich Zemskov, in 1938, 279,966 people were released. Lavrentiy Beria oversaw the operation to assassinate Leon Trotsky in 1940. He was the initiator of the extrajudicial execution of Polish officers and other persons in 1940. From the 25th of November 1938 to the 3rd of February 1941, Lavrentiy Beria headed Soviet foreign intelligence. At that time, foreign intelligence was part of the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs. On the 3rd of February 1941, foreign intelligence was transferred to the newly formed People's Commissariat of State Security of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, headed by Vsevolod Nikolaevich Merkulov, Beria's former first deputy in the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs. Under Lavrentiy Beria's leadership, in 1939 and 1940, a large spy network of Soviet foreign intelligence was established in European countries as well as in Japan and the United States of America. From the 22nd of March 1939, he served as a candidate member of the Politburo of the Central Committee of the All-Union Communist Party, Bolsheviks. On the 30th of January 1941, Lavrentiy Beria was granted the rank of General Commissar of State Security. On the 3rd of February 1941, he was appointed Deputy Chairman of the Council of People's Commissars of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. He supervised the activities of the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs, the People's Commissariat of State Security, the Commissariat of Forestry, the Commissariat of the Oil Industry, the Commissariat of Non-Ferrous Metals, and the Commissariat of River Fleet. On the 25th of November 1938, Lavrentiy Beria was appointed People's Commissar of Internal Affairs of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The Great Patriotic War, Second World War. From the 30th of June 1941, Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria served as a member of the State Defense Committee. By the decree of the State Defense Committee dated the 4th of February 1942, concerning the distribution of responsibilities among its members, Beria was assigned to oversee the implementation of decisions related to the production of aircraft, engines, weapons, and mortars. He was also tasked with supervising the execution of decisions regarding the work of the Air Force of the Red Army, including the formation of aviation regiments and their timely transfer to the front. By the decree of the State Defense Committee dated the 8th of December 1942, Beria was appointed a member of the Operational Bureau of the State Defense Committee. That same decree additionally assigned him responsibility for monitoring the work of the People's Commissariat of the Coal Industry and the People's Commissariat of Transport. In May 1944, Beria was appointed Deputy Chairman of the State Defense Committee and Chairman of the Operational Bureau. The Bureau's responsibilities included oversight of all commissariats related to defense industry, railway and water transport, ferrous and non-ferrous metallurgy, coal, oil, chemical, rubber, pulp and paper, and electrical industries, as well as power stations. Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria also held the position of permanent advisor to the headquarters of the Supreme Command of the Armed Forces of the Soviet Union. During the war, he carried out critical assignments from the state and party leadership, involving both the management of the national economy and operations at the front. From the 21st of August to the 16th or 17th of September 1942, as a representative of the State Defense Committee, he stayed in the Caucasus with a group of generals and officers, supervising efforts to organize the region's stable defense. He also oversaw the production of aircraft and rocket technology. By decree of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union, dated the 30th of September 1943, he was awarded the title Hero of Socialist Labor for exceptional contributions to strengthening the production of weapons and ammunition under the difficult conditions of wartime. During the war, Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria received the Order of the Red Banner of Mongolia on the 15th of July, 1942. He was awarded the Order of the Republic of Tuva on the 18th of August, 1943. He also received the Order of Lenin on the 21st of February, 1945, and the Order of the Red Banner on the 3rd of November, 1944. Organization of population deportations. During the Great Patriotic War, forced resettlement was carried out involving peoples of the Caucasus, as well as populations whose countries were part of the coalition led by Nazi Germany, including Hungarians, Bulgarians, and a significant proportion of Finns. The reason for deportation was the leadership's concern that, with the approach of German forces, these groups could become a so-called fifth column. The deportation measures were conducted by the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs under the direct supervision of Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria. Leadership of the Soviet atomic project. Initial phase. Work on the Soviet atomic project began on the 28th of September 1942, following the issuance of State Defense Committee Directive No. 2352 SS on the organization of uranium research. The directive reinstated atomic energy research that had been halted due to the outbreak of war. A dedicated atomic nucleus laboratory, Laboratory No. 2, was established under the Academy of Sciences of the Soviet Union. On the 6th of October, 1942, the State Defense Committee received a letter from the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs, signed by Beria, justifying the need to organize work on military applications of atomic energy. Attached was a report from the First Intelligence Directorate of the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs on foreign developments in the field. On the 11th of February 1943, Vyacheslav Mikhailovich Molotov signed a decree of the State Defense Committee introducing additional measures for organizing uranium research. Under this decree, daily oversight of the project was assigned to Deputy Chairman of the Council of People's Commissars and People's Commissar of Chemical Industry, Mikhail Georgievich Pervukin, together with the State Defense Committee's Science Commissioner, Sergei Vasilyevich Kaftanov. Scientific leadership was entrusted to Professor Igor Vasilyevich Kurchatov, who on the 10th of March 1943 was appointed head of Laboratory No. 2 by order of the Academy of Sciences. From that time until August 1945, the project was led by Mikhail Georgievich Pervukin and Igor Vasilyevich Kurchatov. Full leadership of the Soviet atomic project was transferred to Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria on the 20th of August 1945 by decree of the State Defense Committee establishing a special committee under its authority. The committee, chaired by Beria, included Georgy Maximilianovich Malenkov, Nikolai Arkadyevich Voznesensky, Boris Lvovich Vanikov, Anatoly Petrovich Zavanyagin, Igor Vasilyevich Kurchatov, Pyotr Leonidovich Kapitsa, Vasily Alexandrovich Makhnyov, and Mikhail Georgievich Pervukin. Post-war period. After the formation of the Special Committee under the State Defense Committee, Pyotr Leonidovich Kapitsa refused to participate in the project due to disagreements with Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria. The Special Committee was responsible for managing all work related to the use of uranium nuclear energy. It was later reorganized as the Special Committee under the Council of People's Commissars of the Soviet Union, and subsequently as the Special Committee under the Council of Ministers of the Soviet Union. Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria oversaw the acquisition of all required intelligence information while simultaneously exercising overall direction of the project. Personnel matters were entrusted to Mikhail Georgievich Pervukin, Vasily Alexandrovich Malishev, Boris Lvovich Vanikov, and Anatoly Petrovich Zavanyagin. They recruited scientific and engineering staff for the project and selected experts for solving specific technical issues. On the 29th of August, 1949, the atomic bomb was successfully tested at the Semipalatinsk test range. On the 29th of October, 1949, Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria was awarded the Stalin Prize of the First Degree for organizing atomic energy production and successfully completing the atomic weapons test. According to the testimony of Pavel Anatolyevich Sudoplatov, published in Intelligence and the Kremlin, Notes of an Unwanted Witness in 1996, both Beria and Igor Vasilyevich Kurchatov were granted the title Honorary Citizen of the Soviet Union for outstanding contributions to strengthening the country's power. Each recipient was issued an Honorary Citizen Certificate. This title was never awarded again. In March 1953, the Special Committee was additionally assigned responsibility for other defense-related projects. Following a decision of the Presidium of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, dated the 26th of June, 1953, on the day of Beria's removal and arrest, the Special Committee was dissolved. Its administrative apparatus was transferred to the newly established Ministry of Medium Machine Building of the Soviet Union. The first Soviet hydrogen bomb, developed under the supervision of Georgy Maximilianovich Malenkov, was tested on the 12th of August, 1953, already after the arrest of Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria. Post-war years Marshal of the Soviet Union. On the 9th of July, 1945, during the reclassification of state security ranks into military ones, Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria was awarded the rank of Marshal of the Soviet Union. From March 1946, Beria was part of the group of 7 members of the Politburo, which included Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin and 6 of his closest political associates. This inner circle handled the most significant matters of state administration. These included foreign policy, foreign trade, state security, armaments, and the functioning of the armed forces. On the 18th of March, 1946, Lavrentiy Beria became a member of the Politburo. The following day, he was appointed deputy chairman of the Council of Ministers of the Soviet Union. In this capacity, he supervised the work of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Ministry of State Security, and the Ministry of State Control. Between March 1949 and July 1951, Beria's influence in the country's leadership significantly increased. The reason was the successful testing of the first Soviet atomic bomb, the development of which he had overseen. However, later he became the target of the so-called Mingrelian case. After the 19th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, held in October 1952, Beria was included in the Presidium of the Central Committee, which replaced the former Politburo. He joined the Presidium Bureau of the Central Committee and the leading group of 5 within the Presidium Bureau, formed on Stalin's initiative. He was also granted the right to substitute for Stalin at meetings of the Presidium of the Council of Ministers of the Soviet Union. Stalin's death. Power struggle. On the 5th of March 1953, the day of Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin's death, a joint session was held involving the plenum of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, the Council of Ministers of the Soviet Union, and the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet. At this session, appointments to the highest state and party positions were confirmed. By prior agreement with a group consisting of Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev, Georgy Maximilianovich Malenkov, Vyacheslav Mikhailovich Molotov, and Nikolai Alexandrovich Bulganin, Beria was appointed first deputy chairman of the Council of Ministers of the Soviet Union and Minister of Internal Affairs. The unified Ministry of Internal Affairs now included the previously separate Ministry of Internal Affairs, active from 1946 to 1953, and the Ministry of State Security. Lavrentiy Beria, alongside Nikita Khrushchev and Georgy Malenkov, became one of the key contenders for national leadership. In the struggle for power, he relied on the security apparatus. His loyalists were appointed to senior positions within the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Already on the 19th of March, 1953, the heads of the Ministry of Internal Affairs were replaced in all Union republics and in most regions of the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. Subsequently, the newly appointed leaders implemented personnel changes within mid-level administrative ranks. Beria's reforms. The new course. After Stalin's death, between the 5th of March and the 26th of June 1953, Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria proposed and began implementing several reforms. He advocated revising part of the repressive measures carried out under Stalin's leadership. He also suggested various domestic and foreign policy transformations. During this period, as head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, he put forward numerous initiatives. If fully implemented, they could have significantly altered the structure of the Soviet Union. Essentially, this could be considered an early version of perestroika, which ultimately did not materialize. Moreover, some of his ideas were later adopted during the Gorbachev era. One of his primary areas of focus within the Presidium of the Central Committee was the nationalities issue. Officially, the new policy was presented as an effort to combat distortions of national policy and return to Marxist-Leninist principles. It is notable that the perestroika of the 1980s began under similar slogans. In practice, however, this policy resulted in personnel purges based on nationality. Party and administrative officials of Russian origin in the Western republics were dismissed or demoted solely due to their ethnic background. Emphasis on the republics. In the spring of 1953, Beria sent a series of letters to the Presidium of the Central Committee. Based on these, several resolutions concerning conditions in the Western republics were adopted. The key idea of his proposals was as follows. In previous years, numerous errors had been made, leading to the rise of a powerful nationalist underground movement in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic and in the Baltic republics, which security forces were unable to suppress. In Beria's view, to resolve the issue, both force and political tools were required. He suggested revising personnel policies to promote local representatives, not Russian nationals, to senior positions in party and administrative bodies. He also argued for revising language policy. He proposed conducting official documentation in the republics using local languages, and even considering transitioning educational institutions to them. Party officials who did not speak the local languages were to be reassigned to the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. Furthermore, Beria insisted on prohibiting the appointment of second secretaries of Republican Communist parties from non-titular nationalities. The first republic where these measures were implemented was Ukraine. Beria's longtime associate Pavel Meshik was appointed head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs and demonstrated the new course in Kiev by conducting meetings in the Ukrainian language. After that, Beria dismissed Leonid Melnikov, head of the Ukrainian Communist Party, and replaced him with Alexei Kirichenko. Melnikov's origin did not protect him from removal. Similar processes were initiated in Belarus. The leadership of the Republican Ministry of Internal Affairs was replaced by local officials. Beria also pushed for the dismissal of Patolichev, intending to appoint Zimyanin from Vitebsk in his place. However, before the decision was finalized, Beria was arrested. As a result, the personnel changes in the Belarusian Soviet Socialist Republic were cancelled. Subsequently, other initiatives of the Marshal regarding national policy were also reversed. Beria planned to carry out personnel reforms across all Union republics. However, he managed to implement them only in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic and partially in the Baltic republics and Moldova. Even this was enough for local authorities to interpret the situation as a shift in power. Instances of discrimination against Russian specialists followed, including demotions and dismissals. Reports sent to Moscow described the removal of Russian personnel and advice for them to return to Russia. In Latvia, Russians were accused of occupying the republic. In Lithuania, they were suggested to go back to Siberia. In western Ukraine, even Ukrainian migrants from the eastern regions were targeted. Among those affected was the future leader of the Soviet Union, Konstantin Ustinovich Chernenko, who asked to be reassigned elsewhere due to rising nationalism. After Beria's arrest, his initiatives were revoked as inciting so-called bourgeois nationalism. German reunification. The withdrawal of Soviet troops from the German Democratic Republic and the subsequent reunification of Germany would later become symbols of the end of the Cold War. However, a similar step could have been taken almost 4 decades earlier. Lavrentiy Beria considered the possibility of reducing economic support to the German Democratic Republic and initiating negotiations with Western countries to reunify the 2 German states, under the condition of their neutral status and the provision of substantial financial compensation in the interests of the Soviet economy. He argued that the accelerated pace of socialist construction adopted in East Germany was counterproductive. The population opposed collective farming and was unwilling to fully abandon capitalist practices. Such measures only deepened dissatisfaction. As evidence, Beria referred to the increasing number of people fleeing from east to west. Among those leaving were not just representatives of the bourgeoisie, but workers, peasants, military personnel, and even party members. He pointed out that the policy being pursued would require enormous financial investment from the Soviet Union, placing a severe burden on the economy. Beria proposed abandoning the idea of accelerated socialist development. He suggested halting pressure on small private enterprise, stopping repressive measures, and granting amnesty. At his request, the leader of the German Democratic Republic, Walter Ulbricht, was summoned to Moscow, where Beria subjected him to harsh criticism. According to Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev, it was uncomfortable for those present to witness the exchange. Yet no one dared to object. Furthermore, Beria proposed formulating key principles for negotiations regarding the future status of the two German states. On his own initiative, he also significantly reduced the administrative staff of the Ministry of Internal Affairs representation in East Germany. It should be noted that the concept of uniting Germany as a neutral state had originally been introduced by Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin. A year before his death, he presented this idea in what became known as the Stalin Note. However, unlike Stalin, who supported accelerated socialist construction, Beria opposed such rapid measures. The updated Union. The final attempt to preserve the Soviet Union was the proposal to establish a new Union treaty, granting the republics significantly broader powers. This project was never implemented. There is no direct evidence that Beria intended to initiate the reconstitution of the Union. However, his initiatives to expand the autonomy of the republics are well documented. In addition to his national personnel policy, Beria explored the possibility of introducing independent award systems within the Union republics. The idea involved creating orders named after national heroes of each republic. These proposals were discussed personally with certain Republican leaders. This plan was later mentioned by Mir Jafar Bagirov, then head of Azerbaijan, during a statement that included an admission of guilt. Despite this acknowledgement, it did not prevent subsequent reprisals against him. Beria's son, Sergo, recalled that his father discussed with Marshal Zhukov the concept of forming national armies. Each republic would possess its own armed forces. According to Sergo, both men ultimately concluded that such reform would be infeasible and detrimental to national defense. Nikita Khrushchev recalled an episode when Hungarian delegates debated the authority of party and government structures. Beria intervened, insisting that government institutions should take precedence over party bodies, a stance highly unusual for the Soviet system. Ultimately, Lavrentiy Beria did not have time to implement this initiative. For party modesty. In the Soviet Union, it was common practice to rename locations and institutions in honor of party figures, sometimes even during their lifetime. Later, such decisions were made posthumously. The final wave of renaming occurred in the early 1980s, honoring Leonid Brezhnev, Yuri Andropov, Dmitry Ustinov, and Konstantin Chernenko. By then, public sentiment toward this practice had become increasingly skeptical. As part of the early reform trend, a new policy of restraint was introduced. Cities were restored to their original names. Attempts were made to regulate the award system. The Hero of Socialist Labor title, accompanied by the Hammer and Sickle medal, was restricted to being awarded only once. A response to the fact that Konstantin Chernenko held the title 3 times. It was Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria who initiated this policy of party modesty. In early May 1953, he secured the adoption of a decree regarding public celebrations. The document prohibited the display of portraits of senior party figures during demonstrations. Under Stalin, large portraits of Politburo members had been prominently used and displayed throughout cities. Beria's initiative caused strong indignation among party leaders. After Beria's arrest, Andrei Andreev declared that such a measure was a concession to the enemy, an attempt to clear his own path. The initiative remained in force for less than 2 months and was revoked immediately after Beria's arrest. For approximately 3 months following Stalin's death, Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria was effectively the most influential political figure in the Soviet Union. Neither Nikita Khrushchev, nor Georgy Malenkov, nor Vyacheslav Molotov openly challenged his proposals, merely expressing agreement. The brief duration of his leadership does not allow for a definitive assessment of his political views. Some consider him the only realistic successor to Stalin, later betrayed through a political conspiracy. Others view him as an unfulfilled reformer who might have reshaped the Soviet Union under different circumstances. There is also an opinion that he could have led to the Union's collapse decades earlier, had his reforms been fully realized. Arrest, trial, execution. On the 26th of June 1953, Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev secured the support of the majority of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and several high-ranking military officials. That day, he convened a meeting of the Presidium of the Central Committee. During the session, among other accusations, Khrushchev charged Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria with revisionism. He was also accused of adopting an anti-socialist approach to the escalating situation in the German Democratic Republic and of espionage in favor of Great Britain during the 1920s. As a result, Beria was arrested. At the July plenum of the Central Committee, nearly all its members spoke of Beria's allegedly harmful activities. On the 7th of July, by decision of the plenum, he was dismissed from his duties as a member of the Presidium of the Central Committee and removed from the Central Committee altogether. On the 27th of July, 1953, a classified directive was issued by the Second Main Directorate of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Soviet Union, requiring the removal of all artistic depictions of Beria nationwide. Following his arrest, Lavrentiy Beria was held in an underground bunker at the headquarters of the Moscow Military District. The investigative group was effectively headed by Roman Andreevich Rudenko. He had been appointed Prosecutor General of the Soviet Union on the 30th of June, 1953. The investigative team included prosecutors from the Office of the Prosecutor General of the USSR and the Chief Military Prosecutor's Office, among them Tsarogradsky, Preobrazhensky, Kitaev, and other legal officials. Alongside Beria, his closest associates from the state security organs were charged. Immediately following the arrest, Soviet media referred to them as Beria's group. The accused included Vladimir Merkulov, Minister of State Control of the USSR Bogdan Kobulov, First Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs Sergei Goglidze, Head of the Third Directorate of the Ministry of Internal Affairs Pavel Meshik, Minister of Internal Affairs of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic Vladimir Dekhanozov, Minister of Internal Affairs of the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic Leonid Vladimirsky, Head of the Investigative Division for especially important cases of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Lavrentiy Beria was charged with espionage on behalf of Great Britain. He was also accused of seeking to dismantle the Soviet workers' and peasants' system, restore capitalism, and return power to the bourgeoisie. On the 23rd of December, 1953, Beria's case was heard by the Special Judicial Panel of the Supreme Court of the Soviet Union. The session was chaired by Marshal of the Soviet Union, Ivan Stepanovich Konev. The verdict read, "The Special Judicial Panel of the Supreme Court of the Soviet Union hereby sentences Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria, Vladimir Merkulov, Vladimir Dekhanozov, Bogdan Kobulov, Sergei Goglidze, Pavel Meshik, and Leonid Vladimirsky to the highest measure of criminal punishment: execution by shooting, with confiscation of their personal property, and with deprivation of military ranks and state awards. All defendants were executed the same day. Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria was shot several hours before the sentence was carried out on the remaining convicts. The execution took place in the bunker of the Moscow Military District headquarters in the presence of Prosecutor General Roman Rudenko. On his own initiative, the sentence was carried out using a service weapon by Colonel General, later Marshal of the Soviet Union, Pavel Batitsky. The body was cremated in the furnace of Moscow's first crematorium, located at the Donskoye Cemetery. Beria was buried in a common grave at the new Donskoye Cemetery. According to some accounts, his ashes were scattered over the Moskva River. A brief report on the trial of Lavrentiy Beria and his associates was published in the Soviet press. Personal life. Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria's wife was Nina Teymurazovna Gegechkori, born in 1905, died in 1991. She was the daughter of the Mingrelian nobleman Teymuraz Gegechkori and Princess Dariko Chikovani. At the age of 84 in 1990, Beria's widow gave an interview in which she fully justified her husband's actions. The couple's first son was born in the early 1920s. He died in early childhood. This child is mentioned in the documentary Beria's Children, Sergo and Marta, and referenced in the interrogation protocol of Nina Teymurazovna Gegechkori. Their second son, Sergo, was born in 1924. He died in the year 2000. He served as chief designer at the Kyiv Research Institute, Kometa. In his final years, Beria had a second partner. This union was never officially registered. His common-law wife was Valentina Drozdova, known as Lialia. At the time they met, she was still a schoolgirl. Valentina gave birth to Beria's daughter. Depending on the source, the child is referred to as Marta, Eteri, or Liusia. She later married historian Alexander Grishin. Alexander Grishin was born in 1950. He died in the year 2013. He was the son of Viktor Grishin, first secretary of the Moscow City Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. At the trial, Valentina Drozdova and her mother, Anushava Ivanovna Akopyan, appeared as witnesses, providing incriminating testimony against Lavrentiy Beria. After his conviction, Beria's close relatives, as well as the relatives of those convicted alongside him, were exiled. Their places of resettlement included Krasnoyarsk Krai, Sverdlovsk region, and parts of Kazakhstan. Awards. On the 8th of August, 1953, by decree of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union, Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria was stripped of all titles and awards previously granted to him. He had earlier been awarded the title Hero of Socialist Labor. Number 80. Title granted on the 30th of September 1943. He received 5 orders of Lenin. The first Order of Lenin was awarded on the 17th of March, 1935. Number 1236. Awarded for outstanding achievements over a number of years in the fields of agriculture and industry. The Second Order of Lenin was granted on the 30th of September, 1943. Number 14,839. Basis for the award: exceptional merits in increasing the production of armaments and ammunition during wartime. The Third Order of Lenin was awarded on the 21st of February, 1945. Number 27,006. The Fourth Order of Lenin was granted on the 29th of March, 1949. Number 94,311. Awarded in connection with his 50th birthday and for contributions to the Communist Party and the Soviet people. The Fifth Order of Lenin was conferred on the 29th of October, 1949. Number 118,679. Basis: organization of atomic energy production and successful completion of atomic weapons testing. Beria was awarded 2 orders of the Red Banner. The first was conferred on the 3rd of April, 1924, number 7034. The second on the 3rd of November, 1944, number 11,517. He received the Order of Suvorov, First Class, number 217, awarded on the 8th of March, 1944. The decree was later revoked on the 4th of April, 1962. He was awarded 7 medals. 20 years of the Workers' and Peasants' Red Army, awarded on the 22nd of February, 1938. Defense of Moscow, awarded in 1944. Defense of Stalingrad, awarded in 1943. Defense of the Caucasus, awarded in 1944. Victory over Germany in the Great Patriotic War, 1941-1945, awarded in 1945. In commemoration of the 800th anniversary of Moscow, awarded in 1948. 30 years of the Soviet Army and Navy, awarded in 1948. He was awarded the Order of the Red Banner of the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic on the 3rd of July, 1923. The Order of the Red Banner of Labor of the Georgian SSR on the 10th of April, 1931. The Order of the Red Banner of Labor of the Azerbaijan SSR on the 14th of March, 1932. He received the Order of the Republic of Tuva on the 18th of August, 1943. The Order of Sukh-Batar, number 31, was granted on the 29th of March, 1949. The Order of the Red Banner of Mongolia, number 441, was awarded on the 15th of July, 1942. He was also awarded the medal 25 Years of the Mongolian People's Republic, number 3125. Date of award, 19th of September, 1946. He received the Stalin Prize, First Class, twice. First on the 29th of October, 1949. Second on the 6th of December, 1951. He held the badge Honorary Worker of the Cheka OGPU, 5th degree, number 100. He also held the badge Honorary Worker of the Cheka GPU, 15th degree, number 205, awarded on the 20th of December, 1932. Additionally, he possessed a personal firearm, a Browning pistol. As a personal commendation, he was presented with a watch bearing a monogram. Conclusion. The execution of the sentence and subsequent erasure of Lavrentiy Pavlovich Beria's name from the official historical record of the Soviet Union marked the final point of his biographical path. His true role, the scope of his influence, and the motives behind his actions remain subjects of ongoing dispute among historians and researchers. This material concludes the documentary presentation of biographical facts and serves as the foundation for further analysis of the judicial proceedings and interpretations of the final events. If you are interested in the classified aspects of his activities and in further developments of the topic, await the continuation of the series.